We go to Kim Strong from Lainey's Army, who's on the line now. Good morning, Kim. How are you today?
It's back room done.
Hey, Kim.
Yes.
Hey, how you doing? It's Manaski. How are you?
Good, Jeff. How are you?
Pretty good. Bill is off today, but we wanted to talk to you about you're calling for a change. Tell us the story. What happened with
the state's calling for a change.
The state's calling
the governor,
for a change.
Yeah.
Okay. Was there a local case that's kind of inspired this or that speaks to this change?
There were a couple out of Gloversville, and nobody is naming specific rescues. But a puppy was adopted out with distemper, which means it didn't have its vaccines before it was adopted out. They spent close to $3,000, and the puppy died.
Wow.
And then there was another case of another rescue up north in New York that adopted dogs out with Parvo. The problem is there's no oversight on incorporated not-for-profits. And it's kind of been a way for some people to hide being pet dealers.
This is
zero oversight.
This is if you adopt from a shelter or if you adopt from a guy who's got a farm in the middle of nowhere.
Well, both. Well, municipal shelters were always under the same guidelines. They are under what's called pet dealer guidelines under ag and markets. But incorporated not-for-profits or not-for-profits that were just rescues were under no guidelines. And there was no recourse for people.
Okay, so you're saying that there was a fairly local case. I think you mentioned Gloversville. Somebody adopted, right? They end up finding a puppy. They find out the dog had what?
Distemper.
Okay, and then they spent $3,000 and then ultimately
to try and save it, and then ultimately had to
put the dog down. Oh my goodness.
Yes. And then it was the same with a shelter rescue out of the North Country with Parvo. And they've had multiple cases of this happening.
What is Parvo? Can you explain that?
South or out of state. They don't do the proper vaccinations because that takes time and money. And they adopt these dogs out quickly. And they're putting sick dogs into the community. And there's very little ability for ag and markets to do anything about it.
Right. So, and what is Parvo?
So, what is Parvo, by the way, just as a side note?
Parvo is a virus. It's and it wipes out the lining of the intestines and stomach.
Oh my gosh!
It destroys the white blood cells of the dog. It was always considered a death sentence. Now there are treatments for it, but it's a very expensive disease to treat. It kills most of the dogs puppies that it contaminates their dogs without vaccinations. And it's called the canine parvovirus.
All right, and then so what is being proposed here to correct this? Because you're saying that the pet owner, they adopt, they might pay a fee out of the gate, then they spend all this money on medical bills. There's no recourse for them to do anything from the place they adopted it from. Is that what you're saying?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. There's a pet dealer lemon law that pet dealers have to abide by that was put into effect a few years ago. And that covered pet dealers, but rescues and 501c3 incorporated not-for-profits were exempt from that. There was nobody to check that their paperwork was in order, that their shots were done. Nobody had any right to do that. It was actually considered harassment. What this does is give ag and markets the ability to say, okay, show us your paperwork, show us your transfer orders, show us your health certificates. We need to know that what you're doing is within the law of New York State.
All right, and then how can people...
And it's $100 for the rescues to register with New York State. And then the inspectors will go and look at their paperwork and make sure that everybody is... It's like a disease trail.
Right.
Did they pull from another New Jersey or Texas or wherever, and are they putting out sick animals? Because if Parvo stays in the ground for up to 10 years, you can bring it home off your shoes. It's a very dangerous disease. And the vaccines are cheap. They're $10 for Parvo.
Wow.
Your puppies get them in their 6 and 8 and 10, 12-week shots. They're a very cheap, inexpensive thing, but Parvo kills, and it kills without impunity. It's bad. We've taken care of and helped Parvo puppies, and it's a horrible death.
Oh,
horrible.
Terrible.
So
and thousands of dollars to save them.
Kim, is there a way that people can either sign a petition, or is this is moving forward? This will be the law.
This will ultimately protect not only the pet owners, but reputable,
the animals.
Right.
It protects the animals. And not a lot of people are happy about this who are in the rescue community because it's $100 you have to pay to New York State. But, you know what?
Well, it's a one-time fee, though? It's a one-time fee?
No, I believe it's an annual fee.
Okay, and once a year. Okay.
What I mean by protecting the pet owner, too, is that, now there'll be some, like you say, oversight that will regulate this. So, they'll know that if they're adopting a puppy, there's at least some security there that they're not going to get.
And some paper trails. And if rescues aren't giving the correct vaccinations and aren't doing what they say they need to do, and aren't putting out healthy puppies, they can stop them.
All right, and this will become law, or you're advocating for them to move forward on this?
I'm advocating for them to move forward. You know what? When absolute power corrupts absolutely, and when there is no recourse when you do it wrong, you have a problem. Is it kind of a pain in the neck for the people who are doing it right? Yep, it's more paperwork. But when you watch puppies die, I don't think it's a bad thing that people were saying, no, you can't do that anymore. And just because you're incorporated doesn't mean that you're above the law. You should be abiding by the same law that municipal shelters abide by. You know what? The laws are there for a reason, and we need to hold people accountable.
Yep. All right.
I mean, I'm in the minority on this with the rescue community. Most rescuers think it's unnecessary, but I think it's a good thing personally.
Well, let me ask you. You cited two fairly local cases where this has become an issue. Where were those animals adopted from? Were they adopted from these puppy mills?
The law did not make it. The press releases and that did not shout out these groups, and I'm not comfortable doing that either.
Okay.
But it wasn't from anything in the Utica, Rome, Central New York area.
Can you say if it was a puppy mill or if it was an incorporated not-for-profit?
Both were.
Both were what?
Incorporated not-for-profit.
Okay. Well, there you go.
Then the law, in my opinion, needs to happen and needs to happen quickly.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, thank you.
I believe rescues have 30 days to actually register with the state. And then, of course, they're going to need more inspectors because there aren't enough inspectors as it is. And this adds another 1,000 people for them to inspect. And you know what? We're going to have dogs coming in from Texas. I guarantee it.
Oh, yeah, because of the flooding.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it's unbelievable down there with
have you already been
going through.
Have you already been approached or contacted by organizations down there?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Everybody is. Everybody's trying, wants to help because these shelters are bare minimum anyway. Mm-hmm. I mean, they do not have the support that the Northern Rescues have. They're high-kill shelters because they have very few resources. And their dogs are outside all the time. It's not like New York. They have outdoor kennels. And in the storms that are happening and dogs that are coming up, just being strays and found and left behind, they're being completely inundated and overwhelmed. And several of the shelters were destroyed. Roofs caved in, ceilings caved in on the staff and dogs. So
wow.
It's horrific down there for the animals. Never mind the animals that were tethered during this storm.
Yep.
They were saying, let them go. At least they stand a fighting chance.
Yep.
Of withstanding and getting naturally going to higher ground. But, it's bad.
Yeah,
it's really bad for the animals in
It's
Texas.
terrible.
And, of course, human life has to take priority.
You're talking right, absolutely. The human life takes priority, and some of the things I've seen with the rescues of people in houses. There was that dramatic video of that nursing home rescue. It's terrible out there. So, all right, Kim,
social media has changed that. They posted those pictures on social media to get the National Guard to come.
Right.
Because you can't get through to 911.
Well, that's a good point too. Yeah.
Yeah, they were getting.
You know what I mean?
They were getting like thousands of calls per hour down there at the 911 call centers. All right, Kim, thank you so much on this law. We'll keep an eye on it. And you say you're in the minority in the rescue community because a lot of people feel like it's just extra paperwork and it's a hassle. But as you pointed out,
$100 going to New York.
It's $100 a year. I mean, is that a ton of money in the shelter world? $100
in the rescue world, anything's a ton of money. In the rescue world, everything, because everything goes into the animals.
Yeah, I guess so. But to me, that doesn't sound like a burdensome amount of money. But anyway, Kim, thanks for the information.
All right, thank you.